Why do immigrants make Europe so miserable? Perhaps we, the people of the 21st century, are witnessing the wheel of history turning its orbit. Europe, after half a millennium of standing at the pinnacle of global power, is now more shaken and shaken than ever. Never before has a continent been so old, weak, divided, and panicked. The weakness and confusion of the ruling class in this land is creating opportunities for waves of deviant culture, and especially a lot of illegal immigrants brazenly come here. Not only benefiting from the labor paradise and high wages here, illegal immigrants are also gradually making this continent theirs in a scary way. And without further ado, let's get started with today's topic. Looking at this image, where do you think it was filmed? Marches with black banners and white Arabic writing. Inside the crowd, there are extremely harsh curses and shouts. I give you 10 seconds to guess where this story took place. Are these protests taking place in the Middle Eastern countries where they come from? Unfortunately not. These images were taken in 2024 in Hamburg, a bustling port city that is the pride of northeastern Germany. And more shockingly, do you know what these people are demanding from the local government? Is it to solve the employment problem or increase welfare? Sadly, these are all contrary to reality. This group of people is marching with enthusiasm to establish an independent Islamic caliphate with their Sharia law above French law. And the crazy truth is not only happening, it is happening on a continent-wide scale. All over Europe, illegal Muslim immigrants are running rampant. Indeed, it is true, not only in Germany, but in England too. And even earlier, similar protests have been taking place in the UK since 2016. And the reason is not surprising. Muslim immigrants have long been infiltrating the politics of this island nation and now hold important positions. That is why today we see the mayors of many big cities such as London, Birmingham, Leeds, Blackburn, Oxford, or Luton are all Muslims. With such a solid foundation and enthusiastic support, it is not surprising that in Europe, more and more illegal immigrants from North Africa and the Middle East are flooding the streets. It is sad that a continent that is often mentioned as the pinnacle of civilization, beauty, and progress has now become a prey for foreigners to come here to cause trouble. In fact, this story is not a story of the past 1-2 years, but happened a dozen years ago. The first alarm bell was none other than the bloody attack in Paris in November 2015, which took the lives of 130 people. Then came the dominoes falling in a series of famous, beautiful, and peaceful cities. The series of deadly candy explosions in crowded places in the heart of Europe started in March 2016, followed by Berlin and Munich. When analyzing the causes of terrorism and violence, many Western experts have emphasized the fact that the basic premise of these tragic incidents is the failure of the Muslim community and European countries to adapt to current regulations and integrate into European society. The fact that 35% of unemployed people in Germany are of immigrant origin is enough to say this fact. Unemployment, poverty, lack of access to quality education conditions, along with the discrimination of a significant number of native people towards immigrants, are perhaps some of the reasons why young people of immigrant origin easily become discouraged, bargain, withdraw, fall into depression, and deadlock. All of this makes Europeans confused about the safety of their own homes. The main reason that European authorities at that time pointed out was the self-proclaimed Islamic organization. Indeed, this is entirely plausible. The Islamic State's strategy is nothing less than polarizing Western society. The group hopes that frequent, devastating attacks in its name will provoke an overreaction from European governments against innocent Muslims. This further isolates and radicalizes the Muslim community across the continent. Islamic extremism has been on the rise for more than 2 decades in Western countries and is increasingly taking on more uncontrollable forms. This is not a conventional war with clear boundaries and clear enemies. Over the years, many terrorists in Western countries have been born and raised in these countries, mostly in immigrant families from previous generations. However, there are also indigenous people. Therefore, to completely eradicate extremism, not only of Islam, but also of other religions, it is necessary to have long-term, radical policies on socio-economics and culture to remove barriers of social injustice, inequality of opportunity and income, as well as gradually eliminate prejudices about race and religion. This will take years, even generations, to complete. Of course, that's not all. It's been a long time since Iraq collapsed, but the immigration story in Europe is getting more and more tangled. They may not be facing terrorism now, but their people are now silently being insulted by Muslim immigrants dressed in non-Islamic clothing on their own soil, as you have seen here. Well, what is the real reason? In Europe, there are 3 countries that are described as the septic tanks of the continent: Spain, Italy, and Greece. If they could control their maritime borders, there would be hope for Europe. But once those 3 countries fall, the tidal wave will sweep the whole of Europe into a storm of zombie conflict. Unfortunately, Spain and Greece seem to be about to throw in the towel in the face of the seemingly unstoppable herds of chaff coming from across the Mediterranean. On January 3, 2024, the Spanish Ministry of the Interior announced shocking figures. The number of illegal immigrants arriving in the country has increased by 80%. Compared to 2022, in 2023, nearly 60,000 illegal migrants arrived from Spain, an increase of 82.1% compared to the previous year and almost equal to the 65,000 in 2018. Of these, nearly 40,000 migrants crossed the border to the Canary Islands on crowded and unsafe wooden boats. Starting from the coast of Africa, this figure has increased by 155% compared to 2022 and surpassed the record set in 2006. Only Italy, with its right-wing ruling party, is still the strongest arm in the fight against these terrifying invaders. However, their fight is limited before the big wave. There was even a time when the Italians had to use armed troops to quell riots at sea. The crazy images you are watching took place in September 2023. This was the time when the Italian government had to declare a state of emergency in the Sicilian archipelago. In just 4 days, 5,000 illegal immigrants flooded the island. All of them had no identification papers, making it very difficult to deport them. It was only after investigating cell phone videos of the crossing that the Sicilian authorities realized with a chill that all 5,000 of them had torn up their passports en route to Italy. They had decided that once they reached Europe, they would never look back. An image not unlike a swarm of hungry termites swarming over a cow that is leisurely grazing. While Italy, Spain, and Greece are struggling against these relentless waves, within the continent, Europeans appear more divided than ever. They are divided into 2 very clear schools. One is to support the opening of arms to welcome miserable refugees, including countries such as England, France, Germany, and Belgium. The argument of this group always puts charity first. They believe that if refugees have a peaceful and prosperous country, there is no need to go abroad to seek a living. Moreover, refugees can solve serious problems for them, such as the lack of cheap labor. In contrast to them are countries such as Hungary or Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, or Austria. These are all countries that have suffered heavy consequences from the armed conflict between Russia and Ukraine. With their resources already severely depleted, they do not want to be burdened with any more domestic welfare burdens. The view of this group of Central European countries is best summed up in a statement by Hong Kong Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Forcing EU member states to accept a portion of migrants or pay is already a legitimate act of coercion, according to your rules. Why did the Hongkong leader speak out like that? For decades, Europe has been arguing like cats and dogs over the issue of responsibility for migrants. And finally, under the leadership of Germany, the European Council decided in 2023 that Europe would allocate quotas to share the burden of migrants. In short, your country can accept or not accept people, but still have to accept being a transit point for refugees and immigrants for 3 months before being able to extradite them back to their country or send them to another country. Just listening to it, we can see how uncomfortable the countries that support closing the border are. Because clearly, whether they like it or not, they are indirectly having to please larger countries. And the word charity they always proudly parade in every international forum. This discomfort increasingly makes the 12-star flag representing unity, peace, and hope gradually fade away, and instead, there are more and more disagreements and fights. In contrast to the demonstrations openly demanding the establishment of an Islamic kingdom in Germany or the UK, there are huge marches of Christians in Poland to affirm their position as a Christian country and also to send a message to their neighbors about their origins. Unfortunately, disagreements between European countries are not enough. Even within European countries, people are divided, both positively and negatively, over immigration. It is no coincidence that Westerners traveling to Asia envy the unity of Eastern countries. More specifically, the biggest conflict within the developed countries of Europe today, such as the UK, France, and Germany, is nothing more than a battle between the left and the right. The right is largely nationalist, oriented towards national origins. This group, although not in favor of a complete shutdown, is serious about controlling the flow of immigrants and wants to strengthen the state's power to extradite illegal immigrants to their home countries. Meanwhile, the left wing in Europe, which Americans still call patriotic, still uses populist tricks as old as the earth. Equality and compassion for all people are still the motto of this group. They are ready to open their doors to immigrants. On the surface, it is a propaganda of benevolence towards all living beings, but in reality, it is just a solution to the problem of cheap labor. A trick to win the votes of the majority of middle-class people, with promises of increased social benefits and benefits. And sadly, this fake compassion has been very successful in Europe. The land, with a majority of peaceful and gentle people, has extremely believed in these demagogic tricks. That is why, in all three countries I just mentioned, the leftists are the leaders of the government. At the time of taking power, they began to deploy their most powerful weapon, which is American propaganda. That is why Darren Brady, a former officer who had served for many years in the British Royal Army, was arrested by the police for posting images mocking the depravity of the left on his personal page. Silencing and beautifying themselves is what the left in Europe is trying to do. And it is also the time when we see contradictory images. While patriots are being persecuted, we see this image on the streets of Spain. Yes, a girl openly standing with foreigners like her, next to Muslim women demanding the abolition of Christianity in the most religious country in Europe. If that is not crazy, what other words can describe it? There are many opinions and many people are happy to see Europe like this. They believe that with the crimes and ancestors of Europeans, what they are suffering is deserved. Hearing that, I can only smile bitterly because in my opinion, no one deserves to be condemned for their existence. What do you think about illegal immigration in Europe? For now, goodbye, and see you again.